just that carrying capacity. And Ralph Painter and I bought that. Water that they got from us, or this little, the water coming to Salt Creek more than it had been before. These are President Bush and the news media. We bought them, and we bought it from Phil, and then we told them about it afterwards. And then we let them in with us, and then we all went on an equal basis on the payment of it from then on, because I could see I was going to have to turn that water over the hill where that whole ditch ended. Wash a lot of mud down off that hill, so we went ahead and got the ditch extended on grade back around that. We had another waterway already without all of that erosion damage, so it worked out good for all of us that way. And then we went in and adjudicated that water on an equal basis. The there were 6 of us, I guess, when we all got together on it. Ralph Painter and myself, and 2 Turner families, Uncle Norman, and
he's really going that back here, isn't he?
And Orman Hawkins.
Yeah.
So I guess, don't know whether that's all correct or not, but that's roughly the way we done it.
You want to talk at all, since Mom's here, about living up on Salt Creek there at the base of Camel Mountain?
Oh.
Are there any stories that come to mind there?
We just kind of raised a bunch of wild kids up there. You know, I'd almost be afraid to let kids run around up there now like we used to let you kids run. Those lions around, and I don't know.
No electricity.
No. Didn't even have water. In the wintertime we had to haul water because that old number 5 ditch had 200 feet of that old U-type metal flume.
Oh gosh.
That old flume that would freeze off in the wintertime. We couldn't run water in the winter. Finally built that system on top of the hill from the old house, piped the water down into the house. It wasn't such a big system, but we made it last about all winter. We was pretty careful with the water, but we didn't have to haul much after we got that done. I hauled that gravel out of the creek up there below the county bridge, a team and a wagon. Got enough gravel to build that cistern with a roof over it and everything.
I remember we took the board off the top of that cistern back in the 70s. It was full of salamanders.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Mm-hmm. And then
yeah.
when Bertha Wilson showed up missing, we looked everywhere to find her, you know, and I looked in that cistern too, but she wasn't in that. But that made me worried then that some child might get in there. So when I had a dozer working up there at one time, I just had them break that cistern apart and doze it in, so there wasn't a chance of somebody getting in it and losing their life.
Well, when did you put the cistern in? Because I don't remember not having a cistern up there.
Well, I don't know. I suppose that was before you was born.
Oh, okay.
Well, there were only 2 or 3 years probably to haul the water. And then the mud it gets so deep up through that orchard lane, you couldn't drive up there with a car. I'd have to carry a 5-gallon can of that water in each hand and carry it up to the house from down the road.
Let's sit over here, Mom.
Oh, I want to.
What?
I don't want to be in
I don't even know this.
the other one. No, I'll sit out here and ask questions.
Well, are there any stories you want to remember, Mom,
Oh,
about living up there?
yeah, lots of stories.
It was something to do with honey. One of you kids got in a big old jar of honey and
Yeah.
got all over the house.
No, I remember my earliest memory is being out in the cellar. Remember where we had the separator?
Yeah.
That's one of my very earliest memories, when I'd be out there in the cellar and we had the gas lights out there in the wintertime, so that because it was so dark,
Yeah.
and you'd be separating the milk. And I remember putting a cup up to the underneath the spigot and catching milk in the cup, and then I drink a little bit, and then I give the dog a little bit, and then I drink a little bit, and I give the dog a little bit. It must have been Bob, the dog. I guess it was Bob, that white dog we had. Remember?
And you remember that time that skunk got in the cellar where we had that separator?
Yeah.
And I was afraid to set a trap before he'd stink it all up, and
Yeah.
he finally left.
Yeah. But I remember that, being out there in the cellar, and how nice and cozy that felt with the warm milk coming out of the separator. And I just, it's all foamy on top and really good, and you just drink a little bit of that and let the dog lap it. And then the other thing, I have this memory of this great big old sow pig.
Yeah.
And she was just walking down there by the, where the, I don't know where the granary was and all those buildings.
Yeah.
Just chomping up these little baby chickens.
Yeah. Yeah, she ate those chickens fast she could get them.
Yeah, she just walking along, just chomping up
A
a
pig.
great big old pig. Yeah,
That's why she likes pigs so much now.
that scared me. Because she was a big pig, and she's just
Great
walking
big-
along there.
A great big old white sow, and she
Yeah.
had a bunch of hungry pigs.
Yeah, just munching those chickens down. These little baby chickens. I remember that.
I got rid of her, afraid maybe she'd get to the kids that way.
Yeah, I was afraid of her.
Better be.
And then you remember your first tractor.
Yeah.
That was quite a big
That
event.
old Farm All A.
Yeah.
I could buy that back now. It's all refurbished.
Is it?
Yeah. Joe knew his brother-in-law. He got a hold of it somewhere. I just sold it cheap. I don't know, $500 or something like that. I only gave about, I think I got the tractor and the plow. And remember, there was 3 parts that I got for it, and only $1,100 then.
That's when you bought it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was lucky to get it because that was right after World War II, and the veterans had first chance at all that machinery.
Yeah.
And Raymond Larimer had spoke for it, got his priority in to get that tractor, and he heard that I wanted a tractor, and he had that priority to get that tractor and the parts that he'd ordered. He said if I'd pay for the tractor and let him use it that first year to put his crop in, I could have it. So that's what I done. I paid Bob Skinner for the tractor, and Raymond used it that first year part of the time, and I used it part of the time. It's kind of a little old tractor compared to things nowadays. But, well, you'd ought to see it now.
Yeah.
That guy's got it all painted up and new decals on it, and you only take $3,500 for it.
Oh, I'm surprised it's not more than that.
Yeah.
But I remember feeding in the wintertime with the horses in the sled.
Yeah.
That was always fun. That really was nice.
We used to go up to Jones's and ski.
Yeah.
Remember, that was before you was big enough, I guess. We put you kids in those cardboard boxes.
Yeah.
Fold it up on the hay rack. Take the old team and go up the road and ski off that hillside in the afternoons.
Yeah.
Guess the Lily'd stay in, take care of you kids, and the rest of us. Of course, they had 9 kids, you know, the Joneses, so we had a pretty good party of us.
And remember this? What were the skis like?
The skis?
Yeah.
Well, they were a little better than barrel stays.
Yeah. But all they were, I remember, well, all we had was a strap over the toe.
Yeah, yeah.
There was no heel strap. There was no nothing. Just a little strap over the toe.
Well, just that we made out of wood tubes.
Yeah.
Could get that in oak then, and you'd soak one end of it up enough and round it up. Then we had that wire we put over the end of it and a post thing in the middle, and then through the ski farther back, and then twist that wire up so you had it turned up enough that it'd stay on top of the snow. That was the only kind of skis we had.
Well, you put up your hay with teams of horses.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that process?
Well, at first we used those slips and slings, we call them. We had that kind of a sled built. Say they're 7 feet wide, 14 feet long, and we had that sling that we made out of rope that we laid on that slip, as we call it, and it had a lock in the middle of it, and we'd go out in the field and pitch a load of hay onto that, then come in, and then we had those old tripod derricks with a long cable on them, and those arms, we call them, were 40 feet long, and up in there, and we'd pull that cable down and had 2 pulleys on it, and we'd hook one end out into the front end of that sling, which would be on the front of the slip. We usually had a kind of a rack thing across the front of the slip so you wouldn't step off and get run over. And then one on the back, and those pulleys would pull that slings up, you know, until the pulleys would come together about at the top and lift it up. And then that tripod derrick had this arm on it, lift it straight up to the end of the stack, and then it'd swing it back. Usually when we were stacking, we'd have a pitchfork that we could stick into the edge of those loads and push it anywhere we wanted, and then have that sling tender pull a rope and trip it. It'd break in the middle, those ends would fly out, and that sling tender would pull it back down, put it on the slip, and maybe sometimes we'd have 3 teams in slips. One stacking hay, that kept you busy, coming in with 3 of those all the time.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah.
I just remember the old stackers.
Yeah, we had that overshot after you. But we had those slips and slings a long time. That was, you sure put up good quality hay with them. But we had to shock all that hay by hand. We cut it with those old horse mowers, raked it with those dump rakes in the long windrows, and then they just go down that windrow and stack part of it on top of the other part of it, and then make another shock. Then we drive between those windrows with a team slip and pitch the hay on from both sides. That's why they call those field pitchers. Do that, and then those guys that drove the team and run the slip would take the hay into the stack, and then that sling tender, and her dad or Charlie Jones was always a sling tender. And we used to trade work with Joneses. So they used to rent the Foster place that we have up there now, and then they had that place up Salt Creek. us kids had a lot of fun haying then.
Did you have to have horses to pull the cable to get it up on the stack?
Yeah, we had a team pull it out there, and after they tripped that, after they tripped the sling, we done a hook from the double trees on the horses, and that sling tender would pull the sling back down, that'd pull the cable back.
Oh.
As kids, of course, we'd always have to ride on those double trees, and pop those little horses in the line, make them run a little.
Well, I remember with the overhead stacker, whatever you call those.
Overshot.
Overshot. With driving the team and trying to place it in the right place.
Yeah.
And sometimes it'd go clear over the back of the stack. Because if you went too far, it would flip it over and go clear over the top of the stack, and part of the load would fall off on behind it. And if you didn't go far enough, and it dumped, then it would fall on top of the stacker in the front of the haystack. So it was quite an art to be able to drive that team of horses. You walked behind them.
Yeah, and those old horses, they got pretty smart. They didn't want to hit the end of that.
Yeah.
So they'd just stop if you didn't.
Yeah, and then the hay would go all. But Les used to do, I remember Les was pretty good at driving those horses.
Yeah.
You ran a rake in?
Oh yeah. The dump rake?
Yeah.
Scatter raking was my job.
Scatter raking with a team of horses.
Yeah.
Then after we started using the pickup instead of the team,
yeah,
you used to drive that pickup.
Yeah.
We just pull it backwards so you could look, you know.
You'd back up, and when you got it right where you wanted it, boom, you step on the brake and the hay goes off, and you hope it's in the right place. Because the people on the stack would not thank you if you got it in the wrong place.
Oh, Rupert Larmer, the guy that's around here, he's a little older than me, but he started in driving that stacker team for old John Anderson up there. He said he was having trouble with that team, and he had one load strode clear over the top, next load is on top of the stacker. He said about the third time, old John had a straw hat, and he pulled it off and jumped up and down on it, and he says, Jesus Christ, if I only had someone what could drive.
Who was that guy that used to be out in the field cussing and everybody would try to sneak up on him?
Oh, Mr. Little.
Old Johnny Little.
Yeah, we need to talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, you should tell, we've got stories about him.
I had to take a book to tell stories about him.
Yeah.
This second, see if I can. Hey, Dave. He'll respond to your voice.
Dave.
Dave.
Is the snoring getting into the...
It is. That's the kind of noise that you just pick up on. Just a minute. There we go. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Wake him up.
Dave, your snoring is getting into the movie.
Let's go upstairs.
He's trying to film Grandpa and you're snoring.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know we were watching the movie.
Are you filming this?
Oh, shit.
Dave, when he's trying to interview Grandpa, your snoring is...
I know. No, I know.
You have to get a firewire cable in.
We've been trying to, keep it down a little bit.
Why don't you go upstairs and go to bed?
I thought we were having a card game.
Yeah.
Where?
We will.
We'll come up and get you.
Oh, no, I'll be fine. I won't go back to sleep. I'll be quiet.
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, sleep is good for you.
It is. But it's terrible audio when you got somebody saying profound things and somebody snoring in the background.
What were we talking about now?
We were going to talk about Mr. Little.
Oh yeah, Mr. Little.
So Dave, I'm going to gouge you.
So, a little old Irishman come there one spring hunting a job, and all I had to do was shovel ditch. We didn't have no way to clean the ditch with the tractors out. We had to take the shovel and shovel miles of it, spade the sides, the grass off the side, and pitch the sand out of the bottom. And anyway, he and I shoveled ditch together in a lot of years. He'd show up in the spring, he'd shovel ditch. But if he's all by himself, he just loves to be out there and listen to a good man talk. You don't know what to say, you aren't crazy until you start answering yourself. But boy, he'd carry on a round table discussion. Oh, bus miles, they crawl on her belly up a ditch bank for half a mile to get there to listen to him when he's shocking grain.
Oh yeah, he'd stand up and talk. He'd stand a shock of grain up and then talk to it.
Yeah. And he'd stand back with his hands on his hips and talk to that shock, you know.
Yeah. He did.
What did he say? You
Mostly
remember?
a lot of swearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, oh, yeah. How was it? Well, that come later in the story anyway, when
After
he got married.
Yeah.
You know. And,
I have to tell about the truck.
you know, oh,
About
he had
his
that
old
old
truck.
he called
Yeah.
that old iron truck. It was a kind of a pickup thing, but boy, and if he'd never go out there to start it. What, he'd kick the tires or do something to it. Says, you better start this time. I'll take a hammer and I'll knock the goddamn carburetor out of you. I'll put a tin can in. That's better than you got.
He threatened to knock its eyes out too.
Yeah, oh yeah. I said, I'll take a sledgehammer and black your eye, I will.
And he'd kind of run back and forth and kick at it
Yeah.
and carry on before he ever got into it.
No, he wouldn't even try to start it.
Yeah.
Go through all that before it started. He'd had that old team. We didn't have a manure spreader then. That old team we just hauled it on a dump boards. He'd get a load of that manure on. Better take your toenails in this time. Got about 300 on there this time. Talk to those old horses.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, he's a funny looking little old guy. I mean, John Little was a very good name for him because he
Yeah.
was probably, he
Well,
wasn't 5 feet tall, I don't think.
that's not more than that, but he was a husky little guy.
And he always wore coveralls, didn't he? Like a full, like coveralls.
You know.
And he was kind of dirty, and I know Mom sometimes didn't really want him living.
But
It was hard for her to have him come live in the house.
Was it this house? Was
Yeah, it was here.
well,
He started up there,
yeah,
didn't
well,
he?
he was up there for several years.
But he was really a character,
He didn't have any teeth at all.
and he was always,
Yeah, always chewing.
yeah. He's a funny little guy.
He said
And then he got married, and this was really funny.
Yeah, but every fall he'd leave. You never know where he went. Show up in the spring, work all summer, and take off before winter.
Yeah.
Never tell me where he's going or when he'd be back.
He'd just show up.
Yeah. But anyway, he got married, and he called
but
and
do you
wanted to
remember
bring
her
his
name?
wife up here with us for a Sunday dinner, wasn't
Yeah.
it? And she come up and seemed like a pretty nice lady.
And she's just a little teeny woman, too. Just a
Yeah.
tiny little thing.
But anyway, next thing I knew, he wanted to go back to work. He come up and started work. I didn't even ask him what happened to his wife. They didn't call each other or anything. I was in the bathroom one morning here, and he came out of the basement. And he said, just like a new car. Scratch the paint off, what the hell you got left?
Anyway, the wife just disappeared from the picture. We don't never knew what
That was
happened to
it.
her.
Huh.
But
I
she
think
was a
she
cute
was-
little thing.
I think she was down around Clifton,
Yeah,
but I suppose she just stayed down there and ran him off.
yeah. But whatever happened to him? He just quit coming.
He just quit coming. You know, one time, about the time they had this compulsory insurance started on that,
Uh-huh.
and in the state of Colorado, I heard him talking it over out there one day. And he says, "You'll never put me off the road, you won't. You won't hit that old iron truck, you won't." He says, "I'm just as much of an American as the American Indian. I fought in the First World War. My son fought in the Second World War, and you're not going to put me off the road." "Oh, you think you will? I'll go to another You can get my license, I will. And when he come back the next spring, he had a Nebraska license on his pickup. He was interesting. I just wonder what happened to the man, you know. He must have had a wife sometime because he had that son he talked about. And to make him be like he was.
Yeah.
Because he was really good at hard worker.
Yeah. But he was very standoffish in a way. You never got close to him.
Oh, no. Nobody got close to him.
Yeah. We probably had schizophrenia, I bet.
And when we were thrashing with those old thrashing machines, he always drove my team in the bundle wagon. And he was always the first guy in the morning to have his team harnessed up, hitched up and ready to go. And we didn't start to work at 8 o'clock then, we started at 7. And an old bus, and Miles, they got tired of him, of him getting hitched up before they would, so they hid the horse collars. So he couldn't find them.
That made him cuss.
Yeah, I think he knew people kind of laughed at him.
Yeah.
And he got mad about that, too.
Yeah. And he didn't hear very good. He'd be on that bundle wagon and on the pitching bundles up to him. And an old bus or Miles would go up along in that old team and just cluck at him and they'd start out. He'd have the lines tied up on the rack on the front of the rack. And he just thought that old horses was taking off. He'd go up there and rave and cuss and jerk them and pull them back. And they just deviled him all the time.
He probably, how old was he, do you think?
I don't know. You know, I suppose he's 60 years old.
When he was coming around here.
And I don't know how many years he might have. I bet he worked for his 10 years, didn't he, off and on?
I bet he did, yeah. And then all at once he just didn't show up anymore.
He just died.
When he first come to work for him, when it come payday, I asked him what his price was on the wages. I don't know, he says, I want to live and let live. So it didn't take us long to come to a figure that he was happy with. Said, I want to live and let live.
And he just seemed to just travel around in his truck. We never knew if he had a home or anything.
No. And he had the coarsest voice for a little man.
And he slept downstairs, didn't he?
Yeah, he slept down there.
In this room right here, below us?
Yeah, down in there. Yeah.
And he ate with us.
I don't know where he slept when he was up Salt Creek. I guess he had somewhere. I don't know how we all got by with that house.
I don't know either. Maybe he slept in his truck.
I don't think he did.
Or did he stay down here with Grandma and Grandpa?
No,
He stayed up there, huh?
went to somebody out there.
There is. 2 cars just came down.
Oh.
He's Bert. Well, you had a 2-seater outhouse up there in Salt Creek. There's room for him there.
I don't know where he slept.
I don't know why all those old outhouses were made with, I always call them those 2-holers.
Yeah.
Of course, one of them was always a small one for the kids.
Yeah.
Sit there with your child.
So they wouldn't fall through.
I can remember being in there and Mom's coming out and saying, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up.
In the snow?
Oh yeah, out in the cold and she's standing outside and we're inside. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up.
Remember the time when just after we got that privy made, had that turn button door on it for the door, and Joe was in there and Leslie come along with a little kid and he reached up high enough to turn that button over and locked her in there. And she was trying to talk him into turning that so she could get out. And he'd say, huh, Mommy, huh? That's all she could get out of him. I think she finally had to push hard enough on the door to knock that button off.
Speak to the devil.
Yeah.
So she could get out.
We didn't know you locked your mom in the outhouse. What's that? We just found out you locked your mom in the outhouse.
Look
at him grin.
Yeah.
I knew that.
You knew that story, huh? Hi.
You can move that lamp.
How are you?
Here, move that lamp.
Oh, geez.
I think fine. I can probably get on the floor. If somebody can help me get up again later.
How you sorry?
Dave, the card party's about to begin.
Okay.
I don't think I could do it.
I know, I'm sitting in the house. It's so hot.
The card party?
Yes, this is going to be a card game here tonight.
Oh, is there?
What's the screw up, Les? Next to Grandpa.
No, he went
Right
up
here.
here.
We're talking about growing up at Salt Creek. You got any stories about that? That's what she said. Then she goes through a whole bunch of stories.
We were talking about Mr. Little.
Oh yeah.
You really remember the time I had that post hole dug down with a shovel 4 feet deep? And he ran up there and put his hands and put his knees down first down into that post hole. And I thought I was going to have to dig that hole out and they tried to lift him.
I still remember that.
That was Les?
I
No,
could
that
have been
was
over
up
2 or 3
Salt
years old.
Yeah, but it was you were the one who was in the post hole?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. He was down there far enough that I couldn't reach his toes. Put him back up, you see.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Seemed like maybe I got some wire and hooked him so I could lift his feet up enough and pull him up out of it. That was sandy ground and it was easy digging and putting in for a gate post and I had it down 4 feet deep. You just see his head out of there.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
At a time getting him out.
You know, Charlotte did that in a frock, and we like to never got her out.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
The what?
Yeah, when she was just a little girl.
Was she clear?
Well, it was one of these that was shaped kind of bottlenecked at the top,
Uh-huh.
and she got in there, got her feet in there and sat in it. And I like to never got her out.
Who was that?
Charlotte.
Oh.
I thought I was going to have to bust the crock to get her out.
Cleared out up Salt Creek and had to go to the bathroom and
She was always getting into something like that.
Oh, I remember that.
That's what we need to take.
Les, come and tell that story for the camera.
Come over here, sit down right here. I'm serious. Yeah, right here.
Now, if he does this, are you going to give us a copy of this tape?
Yes.
Good job.
Tell us the story about
Sit up here,
practice.
a little closer. Oh, Dad used to take me with him when he was clearing brush up there. He just get me out of the house, I guess. I had to go to the bathroom and he just start dance and squatted down. When I did, I sat right down in a big old pile of cactus, and I still remember him sitting out there with me laid up over his knees, picking the cactus out of my bottom.
I do remember that.
About the one when you guys made the airplane up there.
And Alan was the pilot.
We really thought it was going to fly.
Yeah.
Well, tell a story.
It was like a
No, that wasn't it.
X across, and we put a box on it, and we put a stick up with a spool, and you were supposed to pull the spool like this, the thread on the string on the spool like that, and make the spool spin, and we thought it was fly. So Alan was the test pilot. And we pushed it off the side of the hill, and he pulled the spool, and it didn't fly.
Slid off.
Yeah.
Didn't you cuss out Alan for not pulling the spool quick enough?
I don't remember. That's the way Alan remembers it.
I can remember when those kids and they were castrating pigs out here in that pen. So it was dirty. Of course, Leslie had the knife and Alan was supposed to be catching the pigs. And I don't know, the pigs had Alan getting them that doorway so the pigs couldn't get back in that big house. And boy, they made a run and knocked him down, run over and got back in there anyway.
Yeah, whole sow run over him.
The whole sow run in the ground. Leslie got after Alan for not stopping those pigs, and there Alan was the dirtiest. I ever see anybody said, hell, Les, nobody could have stop those sons of bitches with her coming in.
Well, I remember the time that you guys got in a fight out here in the corral. And manure about this deep. I mean, you were pretty little. And you guys were knocking each other around. I remember that. And Mom was so mad because that Bob McElroy was out there.
Yeah.
And instead of trying to stop you and get you out of the manure, he was just encouraging you. And the milk got all spilled into the manure. Oh, I remember that. And you and Alan were just pushing each other around.
What were you fighting about?
Probably nothing.
Never get old out there. As dirty as Alan was, nobody could have stopped those sons of bitches. But Lester was in the hog business then. He even imported a hog from somewhere, didn't he?
Yeah, over on the eastern slope.
What did you have? What were those?
Those were those old Minnesota number ones, that hybrid hog that they developed back east.
Well, what did they call them?
Minnesota number ones was the breed of the hog.
Oh, wasn't there another kind of hog you had too? It was supposed to be the lean, slim, sleek.
That was it.
That was it? Oh, I thought it had
That one shipped over from Brighton in a crate to come in on the stage line down there. Had him all boxed up in this crate.
Yeah.
Remember when was it? One of High Roberson's boys was staying with us up there and doing something with the pigs, and one of those pigs got caught in a wire along that orchard. She kicking and squealing and squealing. And that kid took off running up the road and he run clear up past the corrals before somebody stopped him.
Well, the
Scared it out.
Terrible.
That old sow, threatening, fighting. Didn't blame him much. I was about that scared too. Nothing much meaner than an old sow to get a hold of some of their pigs.
For years, I castrated all the pigs in the neighborhood for everybody when I was junior high and high school.
Oh, you were the champion.
Yeah, I was
Oh.
in the pig business.
Yeah.
Anybody wanted pigs castrated, they called me. Don't know if they ever made me any money, but
Made you a lot of fame.
A little notoriety, huh?
Yeah.
How the kids used to ride that old wolf team I had, old Bud and Bonnie. Ada Ellen used to come over and stay weeks at a time.
What was Grandpa's team's name? I remember Cassius, but who was the one that was his...
had old Bill and Lady were the...
Bill and Lady,
Yeah.
but then there was Cassius and somebody. Who was that? Do you remember?
God, I had so many horses, I can't remember the names of them.
Yeah. Well, we had Bud and Bonnie.
Yeah,
They were big workhorses.
big old Belgians.
Yeah. And Bill and Lady.
Bill was that old big sorrel.
Yeah.
Lady
What was
Gill.
Lady like?
And that old lady, she was the one that you couldn't tie her up with a halter or anything. She'd pull back and break everything or pull the fence down. But if you put that blind bridle on her, so she couldn't see behind her, like you did when you was working her, she wouldn't pull back. But, you know, we'd bring them in at noon. We used to pull those bridles off and give them a little oats, feed them while we were eating. But that old mare, you couldn't do that. If you just put a halter on her, she'd break every time. She weighed about 1,800 pounds, and she had a lot of strength. But if you just take the bit out of her mouth and leave that blind bridle on her, she wouldn't pull back.
But Bud and Bonnie were really good horses.
Yeah.
The time Ole Carlson was harnessing him one morning when he was staying with us. That old saddle shed, and I'd got a new cap pistol for Christmas.
Oh.
And that old horse stuck his head in there, and I just shot him right in the face with that cap pistol. Oh, I got a whooping over that one. That old horse stuck his head around that door, and I just had that cap pistol, and I just... He run over Ole and run over Dad and scattered stuff all over the crowd.
Ole, you know, Alan hadn't started school yet. And Oh, he gets sick every morning. Just he couldn't go to school. So Joe finally got it figured out. So just as soon as Alan would get off, as soon as the rest of the kids would get off to school, she'd put Ole out there splitting wood. Well, it didn't take only a day or two to that till he wasn't sick anymore.
Oh, yeah, he stayed with us when he was still in school.
He was only 12, 13 years old.
Is that all he was?
13 or 14, something like that.
Yeah, he just a kid. Golly, you know, when I looked at that little old house they had and how many kids did they have? 5 or 6?
Yeah.
Who is this?
The Carlsons?
Carlson.
And 5 kids, I think.
Yeah, there was 4 girls and a boy.
Yeah.
Kind of lost track of them the last few years. We just what hear from Ada Ellen. She kind of know pretty much about them.
Yeah.
I guess Sandy moved back from New York back to California.
Oh, did she?
And I think they're about all out on the West Coast now. And I don't know about Ole. Haven't heard from him for quite a while.
Well, Dora died, didn't she? Dora.
Yeah. Dora died over here at Rifle, I think she died of cancer or tumor.
Yeah.
Beulah died too. But Beulah outlived Dora. Old Oscar, he used to say, "Mine wife Beulah." Right from Sweden. He said he left Sweden. I think he had a sister in Texas, but he got on coming a boat, unloaded in New York, and couldn't speak a word of English. He didn't know how he was going to find that sister. But he turned out to be a good citizen, old Oscar did. He got an old drunk, but sometimes he was one of those guys, if he got one drink, he couldn't quit until he just get clear out. If it took 2 or 3 days, then maybe he wouldn't touch it again for 6 months. Then he'd go on one of those drunks, and he was hard to do anything with.
Was he all by himself?
Huh?
He came all by himself?
Yeah, all by himself. I asked him how's it come. Well, he said they had compulsory military training in Sweden, and he didn't want to go through that. So he had that chance to come to America, and he did. And they can't hardly believe that. I don't think Sweden has ever been in a war. Why they'd have compulsory military training?
In case the Norwegians attack.
They taught him how to use the knife.
Yeah.
And so he was married to Beulah.
Yeah.
She was Shirley Lawrence's sister.
Yeah, that's right. And they just never were able to raise those kids.
Well, I think didn't Beulah finally leave Oscar?
Yeah, she
That
left.
was
Yeah.
Some
But
of the
Shirley
guys
raised
showed
the
up.
kids, and
raised,
some of them, and
raised the 2 younger. Well, I guess the older girls were there for a while, but they were pretty well grown up.
But Dean and Shirley kind of took care of the girls, and we took care of Ole.
yeah. But even Helen and Dora were there with Dean and Shirley for a while, and then
Yeah.
Carol and Sandy were raised there. So I never did know for sure what that story was. Why they,
Well, that was it. I think
Yeah.
Beulah just
She just left him.
yeah.
one drunk too many.
She was a lot younger than Oscar to start with.
I don't remember her at all. I remember Oscar.
Well, I suppose she'd been gone by then.
Yeah.
Les, what else do you remember about growing up on Salt Creek?
Just poor as hell, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know
How did you get to school the first year? They didn't start the school bus till I started.
Bob Turner took us to school in that old Jeep.
Oh well, Yeah.
And when we moved down here, we walked to school for a year or two before
Yeah.
we started the buses.
Did they start that when you started your first grade with Bob Turner?
Yeah.
Oh, because I
Well,
thought it was the year I started to school.
I don't remember.
Well, that's how Bob Turner come to buy the Jeep. They had
Yeah.
to get their kids to
He took
school.
everybody on Salt Creek.
Didn't have-
Yeah.
So he said, I guess there was two of them anyway. So much a month that I could pay him for hauling the kids and whatever else he could get, he could make the payments on the Jeep.
Yeah. I remember though when Les started to school and Alan and I hadn't started to school yet, the big thing, he'd come home in the afternoon with his lunchbox.
With what?
With his lunchbox.
Mhm.
And we'd be so excited about what papers and everything he brought home. But the other thing is, we had to open his lunchbox and see what was left, and we'd eat everything that was left in his lunchbox.
That still goes on.
Does it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I remember that was so exciting. Even if it was just a little crust with peanut butter and jelly on it, we ate it up.
And we lived up there. We were the spookiest kids. If somebody drove in the yard, we didn't know. We'd run out there and hide in that old shed and peek out through the side
Yeah.
of it until we were sure it was safe.
Well, I can remember even thinking I was hiding. I'd run in and hide under a blanket on a bed, anything. I was scared of people.
Yeah.
You know, I had a picture of Leslie standing out with just his shorts out there in front of that old house, and he looked just like those starved-to-death kids that you see pictures of.
I've always said I'd make a dandy poster child for an Ethiopian famine now. Solicitation. Skinny and pot-bellied.
Yeah.
Where did Grandma have a garden up there? Was it below the house there along the lane?
Just below the house.
And then she had a big one across that gulch over
Oh,
there. Right?
yeah,
I never
big
thought-
garden.
that thing was huge.
Over there in a triangle piece?
Yeah.
No.
Well,
Yeah, right at the upper end of
right
it.
in the
up
neck
next
of
to
that
the
field.
edge.
Okay, yeah.
There was a big garden up there, but she had a pretty good-sized garden right west, just barely west of the house, just right outside the yard.
That's where she raised the good things.
Yeah.
We had that water running down over the hill all the time there. Before we had the cistern, to have water in the house, you just go out there and get a bucket of water. I can remember old Ivan Camel. We had that cherry tree in that thicket there by the house.
Mm-hmm.
Old Ivan had a tin can fixed up somewhere, and that waterfall that could fill that and go with that frog. And that'd keep the robins out of the cherry tree.
Oh.
What did it do again?
I
It's
think
like
it had a bell on it.
a water wheel, almost like a water wheel, but with cans that would,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it had
like on a wheel, and yeah.
it had a cowbell on back up on the ropes that would ring that bell each time one of those cans would hit the water.
Well, who got into the honey jar up there that got Grandma so sick of honey?
I don't know.
Remember
She always hated honey.
Yeah, because it was always all over everything.
Yeah.
I thought there was
Probably one of the best stories. Had that old log barn up there back to the Krells where we milked cows. And us three kids were out there playing one day and we could hear this noise under the barn. And I talked to Alan into going in there to see what it was. It was a swarm of bees. I said, well, do you remember that? His
Yeah.
eyes all swelled shut and his ears
Oh,
swelled
yeah.
shut where he couldn't hear.
Oh, yeah, poor Alan.
Alan was kind of your big experiment, wasn't he?
You could hear this humming noise under that barn, and we stood up there a long time, and I finally told Alan to call it, and he just went right in there.
And that's the old, that's that old log building that we moved down there to the Krell.
It's under the cabin sheds.
Yeah.
That was the old.
So he just,
It
There
always
was
seemed bigger than that.
that old homestead cabin we had up on Hawks's Creek, and I went up there and marked all those logs, tore it down, hauled it home on the wagon, and then put it together. I had that, you could just use that, just a wood chisel, you know, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and up, and you'd ride it north. You would make it in if it was on the north side of it, and S was on the south, and it really went up pretty good.
Just like Lincoln logs, huh?
Yeah. But all it had was a dirt roof, was up there, and then we took that roof off of the house that old Ivan Camel built, that west side of the house. It was that old metal roofing. It wasn't galvanized then, just that old red roofing. Instead of him putting the nails on the high places, on the ribs, he put them in the bottom, and it leaked like a sail. So we had to take that off of there and put another roof on. So we used that roofing to put on the barn.
But you go up there and look now, and you think about the house and the sheds and the chicken house and the toilet and the barn, and
Yeah.
it must have all been pretty small, no more, you know.
It seemed pretty big.
Yeah, but
There wasn't hardly room to turn the car around after we.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking about remembering that being out in the cellar in the wintertime with separating the milk and
just
catching the milk in a cup. A little for me, a little for the dog.
yeah, that little tiny cellar, you couldn't hardly stand up in it there to turn
Yeah.
the crank on the cream separator.
We didn't have any place else to put it. We put
Yeah.
it out anywhere else. It'd freeze up every night.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you
it was
could,
nice and cozy in there, if I remember right. It was very nice.
you could sure run one of those separators quick because it'll let them freeze up. It'd freeze all those discs and bend them to where it wouldn't separate the milk and the cream then.
I don't know how those things work anyway.
How'd you like to go back to the good old days?
Yeah.
I remember washing those separator
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Boy, you didn't want to get them off the pin.
No. How many discs were there? Do you know? Anybody know how many discs on that were?
Gee, the big separators had a lot more than the little ones.
Well,
Yeah.
sometimes after it got older, you had to put another disc on, or you couldn't screw it down tight enough. And so it'd vary from 20 to 23 discs, I think. They were all numbered too.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite a machine.
They had,
Amazing how a whole life centered around a cow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember though. Do you remember the days with the old gas-powered washing machine that Mom had, and how we hated laundry days because she'd have to leave that kitchen door open. I don't know why I never remember any of this in the summer. All I remember is the winter. But she had to leave the door open to let the hose vent the exhaust out from this washing machine. And she'd make us all go in the living room, and she'd shut the door, and we'd have to be in there, and she'd be out there with that noisy old washing machine. And I remember, I hated laundry days. Ugh. Because we all had to stay in the living room so we wouldn't get gassed.
Boy, you would have too.
Yeah, I know.
well, I hated it in the winter.
Just an old-
Went out and hanging clothes.
Yeah.
Just an old used washing machine I got from Ruby Tupper. And I think we gave $25 and paid it off $5 a month.
Yeah.
But that was better when she just had that old washing machine. I mean that old washboard.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was a lot better, I guess.
Had that outdoor clothesline. I had to wait out there in the snow to